Look at that hairline.
All right, why don't we get started? Mayor, this is your meeting committee of the council that you appointed to visit with Wichita, Wichita, excuse me, regarding information that they provide the city, what they currently provide, and I think you wanted to go through that and talk about issues regarding reporting and transparency.
Yeah, pretty much I don't know enough, or at least with the folks on the call, I know the least about Visit Wichita and the finances. I do know that there is some, I guess, buzz in media circles and also in, I think, some blogosphere, Bob Weeks type circles of, we could be doing a better job of getting information out there. There's a little bit in the legislature. I think Michael Donald's first year, he put in a bill to try to make everything almost like a campaign funding report, and with any tax money went into anything, they would have to disclose everything. And the pushback on it was finding that balance between being transparent and showing what we're spending money on, and then also not giving away our playbook, right? Like not showing Tulsa and Oklahoma City what we're doing to entice jobs to come or conventions to come to Wichita. So I'm just trying to find that balance, trying to really figure out what can we do to take a step closer to help out the people, like the media folks who are looking for more information while not putting us at a disadvantage. So that was really my goal, is just what more can we do to give them something and get them kind of off our back a little bit while also being more transparent without hurting ourselves in the meantime. And I got a Six Sigma black belt on here too, so hopefully we can get a Blue Bog activated, I think.
So, Susie, I sent out to the council yesterday what you had forwarded to me. I don't know, maybe to just start, why don't we go over the documents that we currently receive, the type of information that we have. There's some of it goes to the council, some of it goes to the staff, and maybe that's a piece of this puzzle is greater sharing of the data that we do receive. And it's a mixture of financial and performance data. So go ahead, Susie.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Manager. Happy to walk through the overview of the numerous reports. I think a lot of them have a lot of detail. And what you just stated, they're going different places. So I think it's great that we kind of bring it together and kind of chat through these. If you have the email that I sent yesterday, there's listed 6 reports. For the sake of clarity, I'm going to go out of order a little bit, but I'll refer back to which report I'm going to go through because I think it might help this conversation. Because we have 2 different funding sources, there are some different reports that we do for each, and then there's some when we bring it together. So I think the first report is actually listed number 1 on the email, and that is the independent auditor's report. So we do have an annual audit every year. BKD does that. They come in, I think, Stace, around January, February's time period, and we submit that to the city usually around April or May. It's as an audit report, very detailed, about 14 pages. Is that you, Mr. Manager?
Yep.
Okay, then I'll make sure in reference which report I'm going to talk to help on this. And it talks about, assets, liabilities, functional expenses, cash flow, year over year. I think there's a lot of good data in this one. And right now it's submitted to, when I say city staff, I think it comes back to the finance team.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you an idea, it's a typical financial statement for a nonprofit.
Okay. And this isn't on GuideStar though, right? Like this is just sent to the finance team, which makes it queryable, but it's not really accessible at this point, right? Is this kind of in the gray area?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, and I don't know that we want to call it a gray area. This goes to the finance department. On occasion, the council has asked for this when the issue has come up, but okay. I don't believe that we have the council receive and file this document, which is one thing that could be considered. And this is it is considered a public document.
So it's considered a public document, but like the people are complaining, like that they don't get enough information. They don't have ready access to this. So like just releasing this, which is also a public document, would probably get us closer to, I think, what Dion and those folks are looking for.
This would be a good summary document for their finances. And I think we've got some more detailed information that is supplied to us as well, Mayor. And Susie, go ahead and just tee it up for the next.
Sure. The next document, Mr. Manager, if you could bring up that I'm going to talk about, it's actually listed as the 5th one on your report, the performance goal dashboard.
All right, let me get there. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, you have not seen this yet before. We bring this next report up to council with our contract in December. So Councilmember Fry and Councilmember Bluebow will be familiar with this report. This document actually is a couple of years in the making. To give you a little history. Some of our past electeds were looking for a way to look a holistic picture, including Tbid and transient guest tax. So this document really is about our two primary goals. We are driving economic impact and being good stewards of the dollars, as well as you'll see that the middle column is our performance indicators and activities. So we bring this forth to the council. You'll see a 5-year and then a 5-year average every December. And I'm going to talk back about this in a moment. There's another report that we do quarterly that includes this data as well, as we circle back with the city staff on a quarterly basis how we're doing. But again, I think when you look at this one, the whole idea was to have a holistic look in one place with both of the funding sources.
Okay.
The next, oh, I'm sorry.
You know, I don't know if Jeff wants to jump in on this, but Jeff was one of the drivers to move us in this direction in terms of more accountability on performance. And it's been a work in progress, but I think we've got a pretty good document now in terms of actually being able to judge the effectiveness of Visit Wichita's annual activities.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. And I do appreciate the additional metrics. I think it all came down to, you know, just trying to simplify it to where we could show the public what the ROI was, that we could show, you know, really what the return was in the investment we were putting forth with the Tbid and the transient guest tax.
Yep.
And Susie, if I could just add really quickly, this report also shows the two major components of our activities: leisure marketing and convention and sports sales. So I think that's another component that's really important to bring together, both those two sides as well as the two funding sources.
So Jeff, is there, because I know you've been at this a lot longer than I have, is there any, as I look at this document, is there stuff that we could be doing to, I guess, walk that line with transparency and not giving away the playbook? Or does this look like we're getting closer to, I think, what, you know, the goal is? Like, what's your thought on this?
Well, that was kind of the issue that, you know, Susie and I have worked on, is because, you know, and specifically, you know, I wanted to be able to show the public that, you know, this just isn't going to a bunch of inflated salaries.
Right.
But we didn't want to give up the whole value chain of and show the public what she pays everybody too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a fine line we were trying to, and I think it's a continuous improvement. You know, I think we'll still just continually look for ways to perfect it and make it more transparent.
Okay.
And it is aggregate information, so it doesn't, when you talk about, you know, giving away our playbook, this doesn't give detailed information about what the staff is working on, or where we have lost leads, for instance, but it does give an idea of magnitude. And then it allows for some drill down, but we also then have a representative. Brian, you're on the board, right? As our representative. Yep. So that gives Brian a chance to get additional information.
Okay.
And again, this is part of the contract that's reviewed annually, so it's part of the public document. So
Yes.
And maybe it's just not, you know, get back to Jeff's point, maybe this format is probably easier for the public to digest, I guess. Maybe that's what we're trying to do, get us some more information, but also make it more digestible. I mean, that might get us to our goal. I mean, we'll never get there. There's going to be some people who just literally want a box of receipts to go through, but we could probably get a little closer. So I think you guys are on the right track.
This document, I do believe, Susie, we bring to the council. I think we attached this to our council report. So this one already does reach the public through our council meeting. Okay, Susie,
That's
what's
correct. Okay, and the next report, Mr. Manager, it's listed as your second as the monthly TGT financial report. Similar to the last one, this was a work in progress. We've been using this reporting structure for, probably about 3 years, I think, Mr. Manager, roughly. It was working with the city staff to put it in a way that was similar to how they're reporting on other parts of the business. And this is
this what you're looking for?
You got it. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
This is why we keep Bob around, by the way.
There you go. And this is actually submitted, Mr. Mayor, every month. So, and it's a 2-page, actually it's a 3-page document. There's more on the following pages, you can look at it. And it shows the month's actuals as well as the actuals year to date. And we currently submit that to, Stacy submits that to the finance department. Again, it's monthly.
And again, this is a good example of a report that has not been received by the council. In the past, we use it for monitoring at the staff level. So again, if you're looking for more transparency, more reporting, the council could receive and file this possibly on the consent agenda as you do other reports.
Is that rent number a public number? Because I think Celeste and some others have been bringing that up quite a bit, haven't they?
They've been bringing a higher number.
Yeah.
She said 300,000.
And that's what we want to combat against, because I think Celeste is in an echo chamber, where she's not looking for accurate information, but the people who follow her are, right? They're in an informational bubble where they listen to Celeste, but if we can present better information, they would get it. So, I think that there's people like her who are trying to rationalize a particular viewpoint, and I don't think the viewpoint's rational. So if we could just stuff like this, where I'm sure this is horrible, I'm sure this is pretty much public, and if we would just went that extra step to make it easier to find more public, then we could probably defend from some of those echo chamber type talking points.
Okay. Alrighty, and the next report is actually the 4th one on your list, Mr. Manager, the Tbid year-end handout. This is the Tbid Results. This actually document is presented to the Tbid advisory. I'll let you pull that up, Mr. Manager, as well as city staff in the advisory council meeting. And we use this for a couple of reasons. This is a year-end snapshot of the Tbid specifically with the budget and the actuals. And I think, Mr. Mayor, that came up at my Tbid review. Someone asked about the actuals. It's presented to the advisory council, and we use this for our beginning of our strategy session for the next year. So we look at how did we do for the prior year. This document is presented in our first meeting of the year with the Tbid advisory, which is usually around mid-January. And again, there's city staff in there. We talk about budget, actual, as well as the performance. And this is the starting point as we have those discussions before we bring forth the scope of services to the council in May. And then that leads us into the next document, which is, Mr. Manager, listed as number 3, the Tbid scope of services, which I think everyone is familiar with. And Mr. Mayor, this is what we bring forth in usually that late April, early May time period. And this is the scope of services for the following year, using those Tbid dollars. It's the strategy, it's the work of the Tbid advisory and Visit Wichita to bring forth what we'll be doing in the following year. It's the budget. And because of the timing that this needs to come forth of the council, it's in the middle of 2020. So what we show that we think has been most helpful is look at what have we planned to do in 2020, And now what are we planning to do in 21? When we look back at the year-end actuals, typically we've done that in the advisory council. And again, it's kind of a timing. But this document is, again, brought before the council, and this is one of the 2 documents that city council vote on and approve. The timing, again, is this is May. The timing of our contract with transient guest tax is usually December. And then the final document is actually the last one listed on the email, Mr. Manager, and that is the quarterly report. This document is submitted to staff every quarter. And this goes back to our contract and that big picture of the activities, the performance indicators, our goals, et cetera. And this shows, when you take back what was approved by council, how are we doing on a quarterly basis? So again, it's a document that you will have seen in December. We bring it through after each quarter. And well, we also attach, because there's lots of interest, and we look at, what is happening with the STAR data, which is our hotel data. And again, this is an indicator of what's happening in the market. And this is submitted by Stacy, I believe, into the financial department on a quarterly basis.
That's correct.
This also, Susie, has this page, or these 2 page, this 1 page, yes, on the attraction attendance. Is there anything in this report, especially on the STAR data, that you would not want to go out because of competition, or are you comfortable with this?
I have to, Mr. Manager, I would need to follow up with you on what what can we do with STAR. So I would need to follow back up through STAR specifically and follow back up with you on that.
Okay.
Let me interrupt. Someone needs to make sure that we haven't, that STAR doesn't impose a confidentiality requirement, because I would guess that they do.
Yeah. Thanks, Harvey. That's exactly why I would need to circle back with them on that data.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, yes.
Hey, Harvey, will you repeat that again? Who would have a confidentiality issue?
STAR, the data publisher, probably has a provision in its contract that says, we will give you this data that we have gathered. It's STAR's data, it's not our data, but only if you don't share it, because they got to protect their ability to market their product, right?
Correct.
Okay. I got you.
I remember when we owned the Hyatt, we were not allowed to do that. We were not allowed to share the STAR data that we received. Jim, I assume that you've had that too.
Yeah, that's very accurate, Mr. Manager. STAR has that provision in there, so we won't be able to share that. I mean, if we share with those reports are $400 to $700 each for somebody to buy, and so if we're out there putting them out there, that certainly ties their hands on that business.
I wonder if there's any proxy data that can be provided.
I will reach out to STAR. Actually, Stacy is contact. Will reach out to STAR and let us figure that out, if it's all right with you, to follow back up with you, Mr. Manager, on what we can.
Okay. So, Mayor, just in summary, there, as you can see, there are a number of documents that the council already receives, but we have some that we receive on a monthly or quarterly basis that has just been at the staff level, and it's if the desire is if you want the public to be able to monitor their progress on a more regular basis, you could receive that information publicly as a receive and file at council meetings.
Yeah, I think that's the first step forward for sure, because it seems like, there's those documents are already prepared. I mean, why not put it out there? Love to chat with, another day, maybe when we're all in the office, chat with Councilmember Bluebog a little bit. Because like I said, I know he's been looking at this longer than I have. And I think that we both represent South Wichita and probably had some of the same constituents concerned about this. Maybe, if what's the next step, if these documents, is there anything else that we could be utilizing to just, I guess, make it more transparent? Because when it's not transparent, I think, or not fully, I guess, when the information that people are looking for aren't out there, they fill in the gaps themselves. And So we don't want that, right? Like, let's just give the accurate information so people don't make it up. So that's my goal with this. It seems like we can get these informations, receive them filed, and that's going to help out. And let me just circle back around to see what if there's any other kind of low-hanging fruit that we could be doing, but we just haven't thought of doing yet.
Okay. Brian or Jeff, anything else that you can think of?
No, it seems pretty straightforward that putting these as receive and file with consent agenda, in addition to the ones that we already have presented at council proper, makes sense. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied on my end.
Anything else, Susie, from your end, your team?
No, I think thanks for the opportunity to hop on, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Fry and Bluebot, to kind of chat about this. And don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll follow back up with you, Mr. Manager, on the STAR. Okay. And I'll just wait for any further questions or direction.
Yeah,
okay,
really appreciate it, by the way, Susie. Thank you for taking the, or Ms. Sanchez, thank you for taking the initiative on this and being a good partner in this.
My pleasure.
And once we figure out what to do with that STAR data, then we'll go ahead, get the right format, and then get these ready for receipt by the council. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks you.
Everyone.
Thanks for working through teams.
Teams.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Go
Bye-bye.
team. See ya.